Welcome to the Living Proof Recovery Podcast. We are your hosts, Brian and Evan. And tonight we are joined by our good friend, my sponsor, Sean B. Sean, if you would you like to tell our audience a little bit about yourself before we get started, kind of who you are, where you come from, stuff like that?
Sure. First of all, thank you guys for inviting me on tonight. My name is Sean B., and I do work a program of recovery through Alcoholics Anonymous. My recovery date is February 28th of 2007, and by the grace of God, I haven't found it necessary to go back out. My path was a little different than a lot of folks. I mean, I see the guys, some of the great people you all have had on this podcast so far, and sharing about, their time in different recovery centers, and you all as well, and talking about multiple trips. And I'm one of those ones that was so stubborn and so hard-headed. I never went to inpatient recovery. Like, I just drank myself to death, and that was that day, February 28th, 2007. I just drank myself into a coma. And yeah. And it's today I work a program. I'm involved with sponsees, and watching those sponsees have sponsees, and just watching a people recover and watching families recover, to me, is just such a cool, rewarding part. So anyway,
So
I'm just glad I'm here.
was that metaphorically speaking or legit drank yourself into a coma?
That was legit.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
drank myself into a medically induced coma where I was for 1 week
okay.
in ICU. And
Wow.
yeah,
So
later, and
so you went into a coma, and then after that you took yourself into AA, or did somebody kind of coax you into that?
well, okay. I'll back up.
Now the truth comes out.
Right.
No, I had dabbled with this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous, and people told me, wives told me, "Hey, you're probably an alcoholic." I knew it. But yeah, prior to that drinking myself to death episode, prior to my bottom, I had played around for 8 months in and out of the rooms. Never could get more than 30 days. Never worked the program.
Right.
I mean, I was that guy that they just kept saying, go to meetings. They come, keep coming back. And well, when I leave, I want to go get some vodka, but I'll be back tomorrow, guys. And I go home and tell the wife, God, I just left a meeting, and life is so good, and Alcoholics Anonymous is the best. And next thing I know, I'm drunk.
Okay.
And, but yeah, I kind of built that up. And for me, I hear, I know drugs are a big part of your all stories as well, and I'm that weird one. I something like the only thing that ever clicked to me was when I got my career rolling, and I got children. Well, my son at the time, and was married. Something clicked in me that I can't go do the illegal hard drugs anymore, but I can drink because that's legal. And from that day forward, that's where my mind went. My mind went straight to the alcohol and
Justification.
yeah, because it was legal.
Mm-hmm. It's socially accepted.
Yes.
No one looks at you crazy when you have beer in your fridge.
No, not at all.
You mean people looked at me crazy when I was shooting heroin?
Yeah,
right, yeah.
They did.
You got heroin in your console.
Right.
That kind of people kind of look down on that.
Yeah.
But to each their own. So full disclosure, right? You're my sponsor. You've been my sponsor now for I don't even know how long. Not too long, but 6-7 months, maybe something like that. And so, what kind of drug or brought me to you was what was attractive to me, other than your stunning good looks, of course, right? But was resiliency. I heard some of your story, and I was like, man, like this guy's been through a lot, and he's gotten through it. He got through it with grace and some dignity, and didn't fold like a deck of cards when life got hard, right? So I got a little thing that I heard on another podcast today, and it made me think of you. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts on this, right?
Sure.
Um, where did it go now? I lost it. Oh. In our belief, any scheme of combating alcoholism which proposes to shield the sick man from temptation is doomed to failure. If the alcoholic tries to shield himself, he may succeed for a time, but he usually winds up with a bigger explosion than ever. We have tried these methods. These attempts to do the impossible have always failed. So our rule is to not avoid a place where there is drinking if we have legitimate reason for being there. This includes bars, nightclubs, So what that made me think of is like you've had a lot of really traumatic things happen to you, but that wasn't an excuse for you to give up, throw in the towel. You want to just kind of talk on that a little bit because it didn't seem to be an option for you, from what I've heard.
Well, first and foremost, it's faith. It's faith in a God of my understanding. That's what I have, that faith over fear tattooed on me. And I have that inside. I really feel that. And it's taken a lot of crud to push through to feel that, but it's that reading, again, you can go anywhere spiritually fit. You can go anywhere if you have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Me, you talk about, I go to bars all the time because I love music. I consider, God has removed that thought, that obsession, that whatever you want to call it. I know to drink is to die for me. I know that. And because I watched it, I watched my wife die from this disease. And when my wife passed away, that was in 2018. I was 11 years sober. So I had some strong recovery, and I had strong people around me. We don't talk about that enough. I had the right people around me.
Yeah.
I didn't have people that were weighing me down and pulling me down.
Mm-hmm.
There were, don't get me wrong, bits and pieces, but not like it used to be.
Right.
And I wasn't part of that. But this disease, don't get me wrong, this disease did take my wife. So, it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. And, she beat the needle years ago through methadone. And then through a hospital stay, she ended up getting a morphine pump put in her hand and wasn't honest and telling the staff that, hey, I'm a drug addict. You can't do that. And she started pumping away. And she left that hospital, and she kind of had my thinking, I can't go do illegal drugs, but I can drink. Within like a year, she was full blown. The book says how it progresses in women. I've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. It does. Mm-hmm. I watched it. I lived it. It's God's way of also giving me back a little bit of what I put out there. I got a couple ex-wives until I met my third wife and found love. But yeah, it's watching her go full blown alcoholic in a year to where like the physical and then the psychosis that went so fast, like somebody going through like Alzheimer, dementia type stuff, just psychosis, craziness. It kicked in, and then she went back to the drugs and found her overdose in the front yard. And I was asleep in the house. I was asleep, and that guilt that I had for a while, that was, I had to turn over a lot. I had to talk to people about it. I had to talk, and I had to pray a lot. But yeah, I worked through that and accepted, and then I go 5 years later, and my son, he got 2 years in this program, 2.5. I went to his 2-year birthday. This kid is, at the time, he was 23. He's sponsoring guys in Elizabethtown. He's involved in his church. He's involved in what's the one, white young people in recovery, YPR,
YPR.
and just really got involved. And then after 2.5 years, he got scared of adulting, and next thing you know, anxiety and all these things came up, and he thought it'd be okay to drink because he was just a drug addict.
Mhm.
And he was off to the races, man, off to the races. And but that was after 2.5 years of working our program. And then he unfortunately passed away as well at the age of 27. And that was a tough one. Again, the toughest part about that was watching the program work in somebody and watching them get it, watching the lights come on, and then sitting there going, how could you give all that up? How? It blew my mind. And again, I mean, people do it. People do it. But I see more white knuckle folks do it and dry drunks do it than
For
I do
sure.
folks that actually work the 12 steps.
Yeah. So if you don't mind me asking, so when this happened, because I'm thinking about what you were just saying, because I've had some time together and then relapse and then had some time and relapse. So, and I know how it happened for me. I wasn't in the solution and then relapsed. I was in the solution, then I stepped away and had some dry time for a while and then went back out. Was he in the solution and then immediately back out, or did he?
That's how
Okay.
crazy it was.
Yeah.
He was in the solution the entire time.
Mm.
And then something just within like a 5-day window, something just clicked. And as soon as he put that first drink in him, you could throw you throw everything out the window.
Yeah.
He was that Jekyll and Hyde.
Mhm.
He drank like me. Okay, I'm a real alcoholic. Like when I wound up in the hospital, it was 0.478.
Right.
And that was in my blood, not my
Right.
breath.
Right.
So, they're like, that,
Yeah.
and that's where, again, that was that miracle that I talk about that most people don't get to experience. I had that miracle and I had that spiritual experience. And then I also had a doctor diagnose me to my face after I got out of that coma and tell me, Mr. Bailey, you are an alcoholic. Flat out. He says, here's the paperwork to show you. He says, here's a percentage of people that come out alive from what you just did. And it was less than like 3%. It was something crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
And he goes, you're an alcoholic. And God bless him. God bless
A
that
lot of
doctor
doctors
for me,
won't
man.
do that because they can't treat it.
Right.
Yes.
They know they can't treat
Right.
it. So that a lot of times they'll kind of tiptoe around
Yes.
and not give you that honest truth.
Oh man, this
You
guy
know
just
that.
laid it out. He told me if I didn't get help through their IOP program, that I was going to die. That's what he told me. He said, you were in total organ failure at the age of 34 years old, looking like the Pillsbury Doughboy, 260 pounds, 46-inch waist, feeling great about myself. Thought I looked like Rico Suave.
Right.
Felt like shit on the
Jonathan
inside.
Lowe
Felt like total
yeah.
shit on the inside.
Mhm.
Wanted to die. Wanted to drink myself to death.
Mhm.
But was just a coward.
I wish more doctors would just be honest like
Yeah.
that.
I do too.
Because I remember years ago, before I ever attempted my first time to get sober, I would doctor shop, especially having multiple knee surgeries, and
Oh yeah.
I would just show up and my knee's hurting, and I can tell you a lot of times I got turned down to get more pain medication.
All right. Well, you know what?
And the doctors, I knew why they were like, come on, like, no, but they never came out and said, no, maybe you should get some help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you should get some
Yeah.
help. I just kept going and trying different avenues. I wish they would be just straight up with us. It would save a lot more alcoholics and addicts.
Yeah, or at least at the very minimum, it plants a seed.
Right.
That's it.
You know,
That's it.
like at the
Right
very
there.
minimum, because no one can tell me I'm an alcoholic. I'm probably not going to
Yeah.
listen, but at least it gets me thinking. Like it kind of might wake me up a little bit and be like, oh shit, maybe he's right. And then I might not do anything about it for 2 more years, but at least there's some kind of base there. There's some kind of foundation of the next person that tells me, well, they're not the first person to tell me this, So you mentioned something. So something I was thinking about is, I don't think, what are y'all's thoughts on this? I don't think that we give alcoholism and drug addiction enough credit. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that, like, this thing, like you said, it's progressive, it's fatal. And I think a lot of times people don't give it the credit that it's due about how deadly it really is. Because this thing kills. I heard this statistic one time, and I don't know how factual it is. I haven't fact checked it. But at one time, I think this was like when AIDS was really big, was killing a lot of people, that alcoholism and drug addiction were killing more people every year than cancer and AIDS combined. And I was like, wow. And it probably kills a lot more people than we realize, because someone dies in a car accident, or they go into heart failure. Well, they died from heart failure, but what led to that was the drinking.
Right.
So the numbers are a little skewed on that. I think a lot of people, we don't give it the credit that it's due, because a lot of times when we're diagnosed with it, or we've diagnosed ourselves, a lot of the time we don't treat it like as if we got a cancer diagnosis.
Right.
It's
Well,
more like
it's
we
not
treat it like
always
a
fair.
behavior problem.
Yeah.
I think it's more nowadays, and it was just over the last couple of years. You and I were doing a lot of research for certain things and looking into, and what I found was that when it comes to alcoholism, there's not as much information out there as drug addiction.
Because it's broad.
Right. It's so broad. I guess maybe it's harder for them to
pinpoint,
put that together. But I know as far as the drugs go, the overdose, like Jefferson County in here in Louisville is like number 6 in the country or something crazy in overdose death rates. Wow. We were like in the top 10 now over the last few years. Like that's how much it's taken over the city. And I never realized it was. I knew it was bad, but I never knew it was that bad. And I was just kind of like, wow, like.
I wouldn't be alive today on these streets with the stuff they're putting in and stuff, because I loved it all, and the fentanyl and stuff. There's, I wouldn't make it.
So that for me too,
Me too, yeah.
So before I first tried to get sober the first time, I was an IV drug user. Everything I did was in a needle. That's also one of those things I'll never do that. And then that's where it led me. So then that first time I got sober, every time I have relapsed, I was too scared to go back to a needle because of that reason of what's on the street. Because before I got sober the first time, there was no fentanyl death. You didn't hear of this fentanyl death. It was heroin. And then I knew, now that I'm going back, well, there were several reasons. It was, if I'm shooting again, my wife and everybody's going to see the track marks now. I can't pull off the long sleeves year round like I used to try to do. But that was one of the things in my mind was always, and I did the last day before I got sober this time, I fell out in my driveway and was out there for several hours. And that was just by me snorting stuff. So if I would have went back to a needle, there's no doubt in my mind. Like I was playing Russian roulette by just snorting this stuff that's out there now. Yeah. So I couldn't imagine. I was still scared of it, even though I was using it again. I was still terrified of it because I knew it was just killing everybody.
Yeah. That was towards the end of my life, right before she overdosed. It was a combination overdosing and hypothermia because she was out in the cold. But that was my concern. She was going back out and getting street stuff.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was actually the alcohol that knocked her out because she'd been without alcohol for 18 months. So she's telling me she's sober. And she was sober from alcohol, but she was doing pills and then ended up shooting up cocaine and whatever she could get. But it was the alcohol. 18 months clean, she put 10 shots in her in a 100-pound frame, and it put her whole body into shock. And that's ultimately, they said that's ultimately what caused it. So in the end, it was the alcohol. She had everything from hydrocodone to Klonopin to cocaine to several things in her at the time. But yeah, that was And then again, though, I learned it early on. I don't have to go drink and drug. Whoever leaves me, loves me, or dies. Don't have to. Don't ever have to. That's something I never knew.
I think I read the wrong paragraph.
I was wondering earlier.
I read the wrong. I was like, I don't want to go back.
I didn't think
so.
Okay.
I read the wrong paragraph, but it was basically a paragraph on that same page that talks about that. Okay. About doesn't matter who leaves us, who loves us, who dies, whatever. Like there's not an excuse.
No.
There's not a sane excuse. Because the most insane thing, something I used to do at the treatment center is I would ask people, like, what's the most insane thing you've done? And they would enjoy doing that, right? Because it's like, oh, we get to talk about the crazy shit, right? And they would all come up with all this wild shit. And it's a good way to do a group because it gets people to start talking and opening up. Because, but when they would be finished, we'd go around and I'd say, none of that is accurate. They'd just look at me like, how do you know? You didn't live my life. But it's like the most insane thing you ever did was pick up that first one because you did it while you were sober. Mm-hmm. Like that's the most insane thing that we can do is to pick up that first one because it leads to all that other shit that you just talked about in here. And you made that decision stone cold sober. Mm-hmm. Like that is the most insane thing that we can do. And for what you mentioned earlier, that you're a real alcoholic. And for the real alcoholic or drug addict, that can be deadly.
Absolutely.
I was having a conversation with Jake last night about the difference between a moderate drinker, a hard drinker, and the real alcoholic. And we went over that stuff before in the book, but sometimes when guys are new, like things kind of go over their head. And I told him, he was like, I think he thought I had like the teacher's edition big book. He was like, where are you coming up with this stuff? I was like, man, we went over this, And so I kind of drilled it back into him and he was like, oh, this makes sense. Cause he was getting frustrated by people that call themselves alcoholics, but they can still smoke weed, or they can put down drugs but drink, and I was like, hey, we're not all on the same playing field, and I think there's this huge umbrella of people in recovery that have different experiences, like I know people that are heroin addicts, but they can still drink, I can't do that, but
no.
The distinction is, you mentioned earlier, you're the real alcoholic. That's where the difference is. And the difference being the hard drinker can quit if there's a sufficient reason. Doctor tells you, hey, you're going to die. The wife says you come home drunk again, I'm leaving. Kids say, will you quit for me? Whatever it is, your boss says you're fired if you come in drunk again, whatever. The hard drinker can stop there because they're like, man, I don't want to go back in front of the judge. I'm done with this shit. Yeah, I don't want another DUI. And a good example of that in my own family, this just now popped in my head, is like my brother is not an alcoholic. We grew up in the same exact household. We were raised by the same two parents. He got just as much love as I did. Everything was the same. He got a DUI when he was like 21. You know what he doesn't do anymore? He doesn't drink and drive.
Wow.
We would go out somewhere and we'd be drinking and he drove and he would say, Are you ready to leave? I can call a cab. We're like, call a cab. What for? You drove
Right.
here.
Right.
You know? He's like, because I've been drinking. I'm like, well, give me the keys. He's like, you're drunk, more drunk than I am. I'm like, it's fine. You know, I'll
I
get us
got this.
home.
I got
I drive
this.
better drunk.
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
like, I
That's
got
right.
this. Like,
Yeah.
but fast forward a few years, I get a DUI. And you would think, hey, I don't want to lose my license again. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to have to pay another attorney. You know, I don't want to, all this shit, right? And I was drinking and driving immediately. You know, it wasn't like I'm going to play it cool for a while. It was just like, no, this time I know not to drive on Bardstown Road
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
a Friday night because that's
Yeah.
just asking for it. So I'm taking back roads. I just need to be more responsible with my drinking and driving, which is
I got
ridiculous.
2 within 4 weeks of each other. My attorney rolled them both into one. I mean, that was another problem for me was, my dad's best friend was a criminal attorney here in Louisville, and he enabled the heck out of me. I mean, I never paid an attorney fee. This guy appeared
really?
on my behalf over 30 to 40 times in court for me. Yeah. I mean, I got pulled over for 11 DUIs.
Oh shit.
Convicted of, I think I did 3. Most of them were into reckless driving and different things. And did a home incarceration. I was, it was horrible. I was so sick that I thought that I could do whatever I wanted as long as I had my car. No license, no insurance.
Yeah.
Driving my son around.
It still starts.
Yeah, I mean, it's running good.
Yeah.
And it was so, I just thought I was so entitled and so just better than everyone else. I'm better. What do you mean I can't drive because I don't have a license?
I'm an adult.
Right. Yeah.
Who's going to take this privilege away from me?
Yeah.
It was really, you look back and you go, wow,
The arrogance.
that's insane
Yeah.
and arrogant. And yeah, I was my God.
Mm-hmm.
Back to God. He never left me. I left him.
Mm-hmm.
I left him. And it's just crazy.
But what's funny about that is, it's not really funny, but you think that, well, God left me, but then you're playing God, and then you get in trouble again, and you're like, God, where you at? How could you let this happen to me?
Done that many times.
Yeah. I made all the wrong decisions.
Right. And then you
Now,
blame God.
it's your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were really there, you wouldn't allow me to do this. Right. It's the way we think sometimes. It's crazy.
And just kind of backing up, you were just talking about with your sponsee how you were going over the real alcoholic and all this, and he was like mind blown. You're like, we've talked about this before.
Right.
I remember so I first started coming around in AA in 2011, and I've read through that a million times.
Right.
But I still remember the first time I read through there, and the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I remember when I finally read it, and I was like, that's fucking me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in rehab. I'm like maybe 3 weeks sober at the time in South Florida, and I go to this meeting. They have this it's like a clubhouse, right? And this meeting was huge. Like South Florida recovery is huge. So there was every bit of 100+ people in this meeting hall. Like, it's huge.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting probably 10 or 15 rows back from the front. There's a speaker, and I'm just there, right? And out of everybody in the room, the guy speaking's like, you read this. So
great.
now I'm like,
That's great.
shaking. I'm like, what? Me? I'm like, me?
I
He's
think
like,
you know
yeah.
your feet, man.
He's like, yeah, you. So he hands me his book, and I'm in the middle of this meeting, and I'm reading through it, and he's like, who is that? And I'm like, that's me. Like, this was me. They wrote this about me. Like,
Right.
they know me personally,
Yeah.
but I remember that. So I get how maybe your sponsee, like you went over that, you've read
Right.
it, but at certain points, like,
It clicks.
it clicked.
Yeah.
And it clicked for me, and obviously some time down the road I end up relapsing again, but you know, that always stuck with me. I've always known, even after the relapses, like, man, like once I put that first, I'm a fine fellow, but once I put that first one in me, I'm doing unthinkable and unimaginable things, you know, and just the craziness. So, you know, it reminded me of that when you just brought that up, you know.
Just think about the stuff that, you know, the stuff that we've done or gone through, or it's just, this is so much better. I guess that's just the point that I want to make. It's just, this is so much easier.
Yeah.
It's like, you want the easier, softer way? Do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Take these suggestions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so there's been a common thread that I've noticed that's been keeps popping up on this podcast. And it's that we don't do this thing alone. You know, you mentioned earlier that you had all these people around you and the right people around you and how important that is, and that we can't do this alone. We can't do it alone, and we're not going to do it our way.
Yeah.
It is so important. So, what were you getting from these people? Like, how were they helping you? Like, what did that look like when you're thinking, well, I've got these people in my corner, so what does that look like?
All different angles. You know, during each, during each obstacle that came to me, you know, family first of all. You know, I've got a great, you know, when my wife passed away, my daughter was 8, my son was 14, and my oldest he was an adult and he was out of the house, so he wasn't raised under our roof. That's my son Hunter that passed away 2 years ago. But yeah, it was family. It was my recovery groups, my home group. You know, stepped up to the plate and did things for my daughter, did things for my son. You know, took us out to dinner. You know, we did yard work together. I mean, they were just there for us, and my work family was there for me as well.
And what did they want in return?
And nothing, absolutely nothing.
Right.
These people loved us 100% and wanted nothing in return. And again, because I was just in a good, I won't say great place, but I was in a good place in my recovery. And as hard as it was, you know, the deal with my wife, it was, I really felt, first of all, she was the love of my life. So I felt a little crushed there because that's the first time I had love in sobriety. I had never monogamously had a relationship with anyone ever since I was 13 years old. Drugs and alcohol have been involved in every relationship. And this was the first time where I fell in love with somebody where they weren't involved. So it was a different experience for me. And then, you know, you take that and you take the children and it, you know, it was in a different direction. And then when my son passed away, I got to see, first of all, and my wife, there was no recovery. Hers was, you know, that's where she went wrong. When she did have any kind of sobriety together, she took credit. She said, God didn't do this. I did this. She told me that one night.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I did this. God did. I said, Amy Lynn, sweetheart, don't you think God played a part in bringing me and you together to form this family? You know, don't you think? Well, I think that was us. Just didn't want to give credit to where it was due, and you know, wanted to blame them for all the bad, like we talked about. All the bad, that's the higher power's fault, not mine.
Right. Like, I don't think it can go both ways.
No.
Right. It's either one or the other.
Now then, when my son passed away, I saw how his community and his church and his AA community and his friends in Elizabethtown and Louisville all pulled together and supported his mom and his other brothers and my family, and watching how he had helped other people recover helped me get total acceptance there, because there's a couple guys that came up to me. I've told you before, during his visitation, they were like, "Man, your son, he was my sponsor 5 years ago, and I'm still sober." I was like, a couple of them, he said he was his first sponsor, and I'm like, dude, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And other guys coming up talking about how my son had brought them to Jesus, and I'm like, and they weren't alcoholic and addicts, but he brought them to Jesus, brought him into the church, and introduced them. Just cool stuff like that. Realized that there was a purpose, and then, again, you're talking about the help, and again, it's faith, and it's that whole support group, and everybody pulling together, and then I've got to do my part too. That's the key.
Yeah.
I got to do my part. I can't just sit around and expect all these miracles and things to happen and people to shower me with what. No, I got to get up and I got to go to work, and I got to go show my kids and be an example. I got to go show my sponsees. I got to show my home group members. I got to show my family. It's and then me. I got to do this for me, because I'm going to be an example, not a victim. See, that's, because then I hadn't even talked on that. 3 months after my son passes away, that cancer comes. So that was that whole stage 4 cancer, and that first doctor's like, "You're going to die." He basically, we're going to treat you, manage you, but I can't cure you. You've got colon cancer and it's gone to your liver. I'm like, really? And then of course I went home, and God, why me? Why me? And
How long did that last?
Honestly, that probably lasted a couple hours. I may have.
I thought you were going to say a couple months, couple weeks.
No,
Like-
no. You won't hear that from me.
Yeah.
No, a couple hours that night. I remember that night because it happened. I got diagnosed. This all happened on my wedding anniversary of all time.
Just keep piling on.
Yeah.
Just keep
I'm
piling on.
like my wife passed away on her mother and father's wedding anniversary, so that was already, put a little damper on their wedding anniversary day to have the same as their death of their daughter. And then for me to get that cancer diagnosis on my anniversary date to my wife, my late wife, that was crazy. And it was, but again, I prayed about it, had to put things on paper. I really had to put some things down on paper. And then it gave me a little, like I've talked to you before about, brought me back to, it humbled me, brought me down to earth, because I got to a point where 15, 16 years of sobriety and as healthy of a lifestyle that I try to lead, I got ego stepped in a little bit here or there, thinking, you know what? I'm not drinking, drugging, nothing can touch me.
Yeah.
God says, I got something for you.
Well,
Remember all that stuff you were doing that was bad all them years? Well, guess what? There's some stuff growing in you. So, bottom line, I tackled it, went through the chemo, and but the whole time I'm staying involved in my home group. I'm not making excuses why I can't go work with another alcoholic. Even if I am bald and sitting in my chair, and I stayed involved. I couldn't do everything I wanted to do, but I felt God with me, and even through the hardest of times. I go back right now, and it's like I related to a woman who gave birth to a child, and she doesn't remember all the pain that she went through, because she has this beautiful baby and this beautiful child now. She doesn't remember, all that pain. Well, I don't remember all that pain that I fought through for a year, for cancer, for chemo and surgery, and I don't remember everything I went through, because of the beautiful grace that God's given me just to be alive, just to have more days with my children. And more days with my friends, and I'm telling you, it brought me down to really start to look at the little things in life and appreciate the small things, and my recovery and my is a big part of that appreciation, because again, I take that for granted. I wake up every day and I go through my prayers and my meditation, but a lot of that's routine, and I took some of that for granted. I really did.
That's an example of true gratitude. Of thinking like, I've got this horrible disease, the second one, got this horrible disease. I'm losing my hair. I'm probably tired. All the things that come with it, hurting. And it's just like, but you chose to look at the gift. Of I've still got a shot. Like I've still got life. I'm going to try and live it up to the fullest and just roll the dice, see what happens, and look at you now. Cancer free.
I'm over a year in full remission. I'm
Yeah.
going for scans next week.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true gratitude right there. And a lot of that probably comes, we show our gratitude through action. That's something I learned early on in treatment was somebody told me, said, gratitude is an action word.
It's a verb. Yep.
Because I would come in there and be like, we do our community check-in, 3 things you're grateful for, or whatever. And it was always the same thing. My job, my sobriety, higher power, or my sponsor, something like that, or my wife and kids, the usual things that people always say, right? And it was Sean Nix. And he asked me one day, because I kept saying the same stuff, like my wife, my job, and he was like, hey, man, he was like, are you really grateful for that stuff? And I was like, well, yeah, I got offended. Well, yeah, of course I am. I said it. I wrote it down.
Right.
Touch Brian's little feelings.
Yeah, oh, for sure, 100%. And I was like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? And he's like, well, at that job, he was like, were you getting high and drunk and missing work and stuff like that a lot? And I was like, coming in late,
Underperforming.
and I was like, well, yeah. And he was like, okay. And he was like, what about your wife? He's like, you've been lying, manipulating, like doing, yeah, your kids, drive drunk or high behind the wheel, take them to the dope man's house. Well, yeah. He's like, so you're not really showing your gratitude, are you? And I was like, he's right. I didn't like hearing it, but but right in that moment, I was like, you're right, dude. And I was like, from this day forward, I need to stop talking shit and just be about it. And actually follow through. My actions speak louder than my words.
Well, I appreciate people like that who
he called me straight out. It was just like, but it helped me.
Yeah. And that's what I just hearing and hearing your story, and like it's so inspiring though as well for others.
For sure.
Because we hear it all the time. People in meetings, they'll say, well, if I can do this, you can do this. And you hear all that type of stuff, and then to hear the things you've been through and how you handled them. And in my mind, I'm like, fuck, if anybody was going to use you, deserve it. You know what I mean? Like, really. Yeah. But it's inspiring that you carried yourself through that. And it obviously with the help of others as well, from AA and work and everything else, it's very inspiring, and even for me, I know we haven't spoke a whole lot, just here and there. And it's just to hear the way you dealt with all those things and all my piddly ass problems that Brian's heard me go on about. And, I'm like, man, and that, like, that's the definition of, if you can keep doing this thing, I know I can. And that inspires me to keep pushing. And, so
comes back to no excuses.
No, right.
Stop being a victim. Stop being a little bitch.
That's
Yeah.
The victim card is a tough one for a lot of folks to get through.
Oh, yeah.
And
there's a lot of power.
It's but I've always been, I've always been that glass half full guy. I hate to say that. Yeah. I've even in my darkest days, for some reason, there was some optimism, and I don't know what that was.
So I think so we're different in this aspect, right? I was always a glass half empty kind of guy. Sky's falling, I'll never get a break. Poor pitiful me. That was me. And that's why I talk about this victim stuff so often, because I lived it for a really long time, for most of my life. And we can get through that whether we're a glass half empty guy or a glass half full guy or girl
Absolutely.
or whatever.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So, but when it comes down to, it's something you alluded to earlier, is doing the work, putting pen to paper, because that's what that inventory process does. It gets me to stop being a victim. I use those worksheets, and it's got 4 columns.
Yep.
The first 3 columns, I tell everybody I do it with, so these are the V columns. And they're like, V columns? So what's the V stand for? I say, victim. These are the victim columns, right? I'm pissed at so-and-so. Here's why, and here's how they made me feel. Victim, victim, victim. Cry me a river.
Right.
I tell them, I say, live. I said, enjoy that.
Right.
Those first 3 columns. Because when we get over to the 4th column, this is where we can start to get free of being a victim. Because that's where we go from a victim to a lot of times a volunteer. Where
Sure.
we get to see that I signed up for
Oh yeah.
a lot of this shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I put myself in a lot of those situations.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you guys did too.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody drug us to these places.
No.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Because I've got a sponsee right now who he's going through some stuff, and that's a lot of we're getting to work on some stuff, but that's a lot of what we've been talking about here lately too, is the victim, being the victim. Like this is part of your journey. You can either stay in this place where it's poor pitiful you and these things have happened, or you can look at them for what they really are. Like, so I'm working through, trying to work through that with him and get him to that place to where it's, because victims don't recover.
No.
So
They might get sober, but they don't stay sober.
right. We have to work through that, so.
Victimized people get sober every day, though.
Sure.
So there's a big difference there.
There's a big difference there.
So we were talking about our home group earlier this week. I brought something up. So it says in How It Works, we stood at the turning point, right? So the turning point is like alcoholism, my old ideas on this side, right? My way of thinking, my way, all pain, despair, discouragement, anxiety, depression, all that's on this side, right? This street over here is God, sobriety, recovery. I don't know what that looks like,
Right.
But I know what this looks like,
Right.
and I know what this feels like, and I want to feel that, But there's a lot of people, they still choose that because number one, it's comfort. There's comfort in the chaos, right? But also, there's power in that. There's power in being a victim, right? Because I can manipulate situations. I don't have to do shit as a victim, right? Because I drop that victim card down and I'm out, because this happened, whatever. So therefore, I'm entitled to feel the way I feel or have the point of view that I have. I don't have to look at shit as a victim.
I was more of a blamer and an excuse maker.
Mm-hmm.
I blamed everybody for all my troubles.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't much victim at times, but boy, did I blame other people. Boy, was I an
It's the same
excuse
thing.
maker. It is.
Yeah.
Ultimately it is.
Yeah.
It's you. Bottom line, what you don't address, you endorse.
Mm-hmm.
And again, back to expect nothing, accept everything, accept unacceptable behavior.
Yeah.
It's that's another weird thing we didn't touch on much. Expectations.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go there.
No, it's just you like you touched on it earlier about different people. Not everybody works the program that we work.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are sober, and that's great. But again, those expectations that we put on others, people's, places, things, those are really bad for us addicts and alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
Really bad.
And I struggle with that.
Even in sobriety.
Yeah, for
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How you can have expectations for something and it doesn't quite get to where you wanted it, and you're a little disappointed, and you want to paddle a little,
Yeah.
paddle a wheel bit, but
Yeah,
you go away
for
and
sure.
fight, you know.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
And we do it again with expecting. You and I have talked about that sponsees. You know, my gosh, you know, expecting them to follow your direction, your suggestions, and they don't.
Yeah. A lot, most of them don't.
But
But when they do,
right when they do,
Yeah.
and then you start to see that light come on, like,
it's
that
so
shit gets you
rewarding.
fired
It
up,
does.
bro.
It's,
Like,
it's better than any high I've gotten.
right.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah, like,
oh,
I'm working steps with them, and I'm like, man, it's on. I'm drinking
Yeah.
Celsius. I'm ready to kick a fat kid in Walmart or something. You know, I won't do that today,
Right.
but you know what I mean? I'm amped up. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is awesome. You know,
that's great. I love
you
that.
know, like,
I'm gonna put that in my book.
when it comes on, you know, when you see it come
Oh
on,
yeah,
man,
that
it's,
is a good,
you know,
good
there's,
feeling.
yeah, there's nothing better.
Oh, dude, I got charged last night when I was talking to Jake.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause we talked he just called me and he's like, hey, I'm just checking in, you know, just nothing going on or whatever. And then he was like, actually, you know what? I do got something I want to talk to you about. I was like, okay.
That's great.
You know, and we just start talking, and they say, you know, I'm walking out to the car to get my book, and, you know, I'm reading to him, and, you know, and he's just, it's palpable through the phone. Like, I can tell that he's like, whoa, you know, just like, what? Oh my God, you know, and we just keep talking about stuff, and it just reminded me of how this thing works.
Mm.
Sure, I'm helping him, but he's helping me because
Absolutely.
I'm like, when I got off the phone, I wasn't feeling bad when I first started talking to him. Say on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe I was a 7, which is a good place to be. You know, I got off the phone, I'm like a 9.
Right.
And I'm like, oh man, like I'm just full of energy. I'm like, man, I gotta go to bed. You know, but I'm just charged up.
For me, those are little spiritual experiences.
They
really are.
It's like my daily infusion,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, in the Lord's Prayer it says, give me my bread, my daily bread. I can't stay sober off of a spiritual experience that I had 4.5 years ago.
No.
You know, I can't, like, I need to continue to have these experiences because they have a shelf life. You know, so if I go through the work, just hypothetically, right? I go through the work and have a spiritual awakening, spiritual experience, and then I'm 10 years sober, but I'm not working with others. You know, I'm staying sober, you know, but I'm not having new experiences. I'm not having any growth. I'm not doing anything like that. You know, eventually the shelf life on that's going to run out, you know, so I need to keep having these experiences. And if we've done the work and we're what it says in the book that we're living in the realm of the spirit, right? So our spirit has been awakened. What that means is our spirit's been asleep, you know, so now we're awake to things and now I can see things now. So I used to have these experiences all the time and not know it. And I'd just be like, oh, that's a cool thing. You know, what a coincidence. Like, this is insane. I can't believe this happened, you know?
Right. Oh, no.
But now I see them and I'm like, oh, wow, I see you. Like, that's God. Like, I can see it now.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what happened on my cancer diagnosis. Just a friend of a friend's talking about my story to someone else. They're just sharing my story about my cancer diagnosis, and they go, hey, we got a friend that just got cured from that same thing. Here's the doctor's name.
Right.
I called him for a second opinion. He got me in with a surgeon, and he's the one that helped me get on this road. So but again, that was God. That was God through other people. You know, a lot of people are expecting this, again, the miracles. You know, the lightning, the you know, that Morgan Freeman talking to you in your head.
Yeah, right.
Sean, wake up.
Right.
You know,
well, I think a lot of times where we make mistakes is we try to seek God vertically. Right, like it's like, you know, it's like I'm struggling and I get down on my knees and I'm looking up, you know, I'm looking this way, but he's right here. You know, it comes to through the form of a brother or a sister or someone, a friend, you know, but a lot of times he'll send that person into my life, but no, God's got this. I don't need your help. You know, but God's like, dude, I sent him to help you. Yeah. But I want to turn the help away because of my pride.
Pride and ego.
You know, I can't take what you're willing to give me.
I've had I've had a couple experiences over these last few weeks, and I think we've talked about it a little bit where these moments have happened, and I'm like, man, that was God. You know, that's God, and even something that happened Wednesday night, and you said it earlier, like, and it was my first thought when I read it. It was posted on Facebook. There's a guy that started reaching out. He's got like a little over a week sober now, and went to his first meeting and picked up that first chip. And you know, it's one of my wife's friends' brother, and she is so proud of him. And you know, she put social media is big now, so she posted on social media. And I saw her make a comment to my wife and said, "This is all thanks to you and Evan." And my first thought when I was read that was, I didn't do any of that. Like, yes, like he did reach out to me, but that was God, working, and that was God working through me and through him. Like, we didn't do any of that. Like, I've just seen, but in the past, I'd have been like, damn right, that was me.
You'd be like,
I did that, but I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do any of that. That was God working.
Sure.
You know, and
Well,
that's awesome.
I know that today.
Luckily, you've done all the things that you've needed to do so that you can be put in that position, right? Because I firmly believe this, that if we don't stay sober, like us three or anybody out there are people that are going to die, right? Because I think that we are all, everyone is supposed to help the next person. Like, that's the highest accolade you can get in AA is servant. Like, that's as high as you're going to go, right? Is servant. You know, so but if I don't,
back to the primary purpose.
Yeah, but if I don't stay sober, or if you didn't stay sober, you couldn't have helped that guy.
Yeah,
And who knows? Maybe someone else would have. Maybe someone else wouldn't have. You know, maybe someone wouldn't have had the willingness that you did to help him. You know, maybe someone would have said, he'll figure it out. You know, just keep going to meetings. You know, or something like that. Who knows? You know, but that's why it's so important that we have to stay sober, not just for our own sobriety and our family. Like, of course, that's important, but for other people.
Sure.
You know, because if we don't stay sober, who are we going to help?
Yeah.
You know, people are going to die, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the end result of untreated alcoholism and addiction.
Yeah.
Is death. We talk about incarceration, penitentiary, or nothing else, or 6 feet under, or ash.
Yeah, man. But I mean, you brought up the primary purpose, and we read that in every meeting. You know, read the traditions. You know,
right off.
Well, right, like I think a lot of times it just falls on deaf ears. You know, just because, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just, I think that we hear something over and over and over again and just kind of tune it out. You know, it's like, let's get to the meeting, you know. But that is our sole purpose, is to help the next person. It's not to talk about my day. It's not to share so that I can feel better.
Traditions meetings helped me years ago, really helped me understand those traditions. I went to just I think the Ice House still has a great one on Saturday mornings. Not plugging it, but anyway, the traditions type meetings that go over and break the traditions down. After I had recovered and had some good sobriety built up, really helped me progress. I mean, hell, I tell you all the time, I can't retain anything, and my retention level is horrible.
Same
Oh,
here.
whatever, bro. He comes in here and drops crazy quotes all the time. Like, he remembers.
Well, it's weird for me. Like, when I'm reading it, if I'm reading it, I don't retain it. But if I'm listening to it, I can retain stuff.
Okay.
I don't know. It's weird for me.
Okay. No, I get that.
Yeah, I do too.
I get that. So there's another tradition that I think that gets kind of misunderstood, and it's the attraction, not promotion. That's our public relations policy.
Yeah.
That's not our 12th step policy. Our 12th step policy could carry this message, you know, so we're not supposed to be in secret and so anonymous. Like, that's public relations.
Right.
They're
Don't
two
go out,
totally
don't
different
go out
things.
holding up billboards. Don't get
Yeah.
on TV
Yeah.
and throw, yeah.
Yeah. It's totally different things. We should not, at the group level, we should not be anonymous from each other.
Yeah.
Is I guess the point that I'm trying to make.
Good point. Yeah, I like that.
They say, I've heard this a lot too in meetings. We're going to love you until you can love yourself. Right. And I used to kind of agree with that, like abide by that. Right. But I think what the program teaches is that we're going to love you until you can love someone else, until you can love on somebody else. Right. Because that's our primary purpose, is to love on other people, to be a servant. Right. So if the group loves me until I can love someone else, not until I can love myself. Because by loving someone else, then I can love myself.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we have to get to that level. Like, I think we have to love ourselves. We have to show ourselves some self-respect and get to that
We have
point
to get there
before we
Yeah.
can give that to someone else as
Yeah.
well, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but yeah.
Like, if I don't know how to show myself respect
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
love
'cause
myself,
you've beaten
how can
yourself
I
up
love
because you've beaten
you?
yourself up so much. And
Yeah, I mean, you can't, I guess you're right, because you can't transmit something you don't have.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
You gotta have a little bit in there. Yeah. Good stuff.
But I also think, like, it's by loving others that I get to experience the love. It's like I have to give in order to receive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's probably semantics.
Yeah.
I'm overthinking something.
Typical. We do that a lot.
Yeah. I heard that today. I was listening to the thing and I heard that and I started thinking about it and I was like, it's a good point. Yeah, whatever.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff, man. So, you got other sponsees. So this is the important thing, right? Is that
Mhm.
you did all those things to get through all the things that you've had to get through, right? But you didn't just stop. It
No.
wasn't like, okay, I got through the cancer, I'm good now. Like I can chill. You just keep going.
That's right. I mean, just stay active. Stay active in my home group. Stay active and get around other meetings and have other sponsees. And I've been with my current sponsor now. I'm blessed, man. I've been with my current sponsor now for 16 and a half years. Yeah, today I can truly say he's my best friend.
Mhm.
And it's amazing. It's amazing, the relationship. But again, kind of similar to you guys. I've watched guys who bounce to different sponsors at different times and different things going on in their lives. And for me and Jim, it just so happens that we grew up both only children, both lived with our mom, both in Section 8 housing. And just we had so many similarities, but we were 25 years apart. And then he has all these similarities with my dad. Him and my dad are he's like the alcoholic version of my father. My father wasn't one of us. He's not one of us.
Yeah.
So it's I think that's what's kept me tied to him, is that fatherly figure that I developed with him, and then our common, love for recovery. I mean, he's watching Jim at 26 years. The dude, he's 80 years old and still active and involved and doing spreadsheets and meeting list and chair list. And I mean, it's just too cool. Yeah. He's been a great part of my recovery. But it's, again, what we were talking about. Before him, I'd only had one other sponsor that I worked with my first year in recovery, and I didn't really. Took me about a year to start getting involved. But and that's why me and you talk about that passion I have for people, and saying you don't have to go back out. You
Mhm.
don't. It's cool if you do, and you're so fortunate when you make it back. But I watch too many people not make it back, and that's where that
Mhm.
passion comes from. I've seen too many not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's my recovery today and my life today are good, and you know, I don't know. I just I can't imagine life without recovery, without the people, and then again that whole what we talk about all the time, that higher power, and it's not me. That's it.
Mhm.
It's not me.
So, no, we're on time.
Hours.
Okay, cool. You got anything else you'd like to say, Ryan?
Open or whatever you guys.
All right.
Yeah, just I look forward to getting to know Evan a little more.
Yeah.
I've through this podcast, I've got to learn more about you from the podcast than I have sitting with you. So so no, that's the cool part. And again, I love how you all bring each one of us in here, and you get different guests, a little different take on everything. I mean, you don't. Again, back to everybody can't work the same program.
Mhm.
Now there's a 12 suggested steps that work really well, but how you do your daily recovery, that's your deal.
Right.
You know, that's your deal. Now, you know, if I'm going to sponsor you, we're going to keep the other substances away. That's upfront what I tell my sponsees.
Mhm.
And but again, you know, we're all doing things a little different, you know, but again, the 100% part and the perfect part is not putting the substance in you. But I don't know. All I know is it's been cool watching the differences and the people. Again, y'all had some great stories, and I've gotten to experience. I've got to learn a lot about rehab through you guys.
Yeah, you don't have to do your own research.
No, I
You
know.
Yeah.
I know.
Let's take our word for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All of them, man. You know, back to you and the 2 years where you just try different substances every couple of weeks. Or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my bipolar stage.
There you go.
Yeah. My manic stage. Yeah. Wow. Self-induced mania.
What a blessing to not live that way today.
I know, man. It's insane. It's insane. Well, man, we appreciate you coming out tonight. You know, you're an inspiration to both of us. And I mean,
And you guys are as well.
and anybody
So that's-
that watches this that's not inspired or aspired, like there's something wrong with them.
Absolutely.
You know, they got something. They need some God in their life if that's the case. But
Hope they
yeah.
get it.
yeah, I love you, man.
Love you
We
too,
appreciate you coming out, man. So
Again,
Thank
thank
you.
you, and you guys are inspirations, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, we appreciate it.